Hello.
Why, hello.
Welcome back to Chronicles of the Phoenix. We're really excited to be back on this third full episode that we're putting out.
We really are.
I'm proud of us.
Me too.
We're excited because we thought a little bit about our last topic, which was letting go, and the importance of noticing what's happening in your body and having awareness around things that no longer serve you. And we thought we would sort of continue that conversation in a little bit of a different direction with this episode, which is about leaning into pain and the power of moving toward discomfort. So with that, I have a little quote I'm going to read you. I want to know what you think.
Okay.
Pain is a compass guiding us toward our deepest truths. What do you think of that quote?
I think that our pain is also comes from relational injuries or traumatic events. And Gabor Mate, who is a famous psychologist that you and I both follow, talks about trauma. Or a traumatic event is what happens to you, and trauma is what happens inside of you that results in the disconnection of emotion, physical or spiritual connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that disconnection is what happens to you, and if you can tap into that pain and recognize where it's coming from, then you can identify the direction you need to go, and that becomes the compass.
I love that. Wow. Great way to put it.
Thank you, Dr. Mate. I love the teachers of our lives.
I agree. No, I love him. I think that is such a wise kind of way to put it, but I think your reflections on how that relates to this quote about letting that guide us and, help us use those experiences that we need to tap into and those feelings we have of hurt, pain, all of that can give us direction sometimes and let us know right where we need to be going, or right for this idea moving toward. We need to figure out what are those pain points that we can help heal.
Mm-hmm.
What better way to find them than identify what's hurting us, right?
Yeah.
So that's a part of it. Nice. Well, I think one of the things that we talk about here, both in our episode about meeting your hosts, but also throughout our episodes, is that we kind of do things differently sometimes, and sometimes the same way. But I'm curious for you, what you would say is your first instinct when discomfort shows up. Do you lean in? Do you pull away? Mixy-loo? Just because I know you like that option. What would you say?
Well, as you know, I, as an Enneagram 7, like flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to be boxed in any part of my life at all. So in certain parts of my life, I run right into that flame and that pain, and I am a fierce firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other parts of my life, and probably the part of my life that I am surprisingly the least comfortable, though I'm getting more comfortable facing difficult conversations and pain, is with my family of origin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning how to do that better, but that certainly is where I struggle the most to have the difficult conversations and move towards pain.
Okay. Do you find there are other areas that feel more comfortable for you, or that you feel like you can go right in, like you're saying, with that firefighting kind of thing?
I found that through the years, I have been most comfortable at work, in work settings. I think probably partly because I have been in leadership positions most of my career. So as a leader, I've always felt it's important to lead by example. So if I have an expectation of my staff, then I need to also have that expectation of myself. So,
Mhm.
and part of that is having difficult conversations and being vulnerable um, in the work. So I've always forced myself to have integrity in the work. And part of that is having difficult conversations. So through practice, that has become pretty natural for me.
Mhm.
Um, and as a result of that, it's fairly comfortable for me in a way that I don't think that it has been in other areas of my life.
Mhm.
How about you?
Well, like you referenced the Enneagram, which we love, by the way, and we will talk about it often. We'll probably end up doing an entire episode or maybe 5 or 9 about the
Probably.
Enneagram.
Mhm.
So if you don't know what it is, it's one of the personality inventories out there, but it's one that gets a lot of attention right now. I feel like I've heard it all over the place, but we've taken a lot of time to study it and, study ourselves through this lens. And so I'm an Enneagram 9 for anyone who's curious. And so what that really means is my personality type in and of itself is peacekeeper, pretty conflict avoidant, right? So it's a little funky to have that as my background and be a therapist. In some ways, not so because it's aligned, I think, in so many ways with helping people and trying to hold multiple perspectives and those things. But we do have a lot of difficult conversation, I think, in our jobs as therapists, even. And maybe they're not as personal to us because we're not sharing as much, but we certainly have to go there with many people all the time. But I think my specific flavor of avoidance is related to conflict. And so if I do think a difficult conversation or a painful conversation or painful experience is going to lead to conflict or could lead to conflict, that's where I really am like, not really that interested in it. And I've had to work hard at changing that and trying to do it differently because I really do see the value in going towards these difficult experiences and rumbling through the messiness and getting to the other side. But instinctually, I definitely am somebody who tends to avoid that painful part of that experience as much as I can.
Mm,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I think we had a conversation recently uh, that was interesting in terms of the different styles and the way that we avoid pain.
Mhm.
And I was having a conversation with my daughter, and she had gotten triggered by something that I'd said to her and and she got defensive by what she said. And then I instantly became reactive to it rather than seeing her anger for what it was
Mm.
and acknowledging and sitting in that with her
Mhm.
and being vulnerable in the pain of that. I instantly matched it and became um, defensive with her. And I wasn't, although she might have felt like it was combative, but it wasn't a combative thing, but I got defensive. And so my avoidance isn't necessarily, which is different than yours. My avoidance isn't to just not have conflict. I'll still have conflict
Mhm.
and debate something to the nth degree,
Yep.
but it's from a much more like verbal, like I need to win
Mhm.
kind of place, rather than just a retreat.
Mhm.
Um, and where that was coming from in that particular situation was one of the places, and I think I've talked about this in previous episodes, is that the place that I value most as a person is being a mom.
Mhm.
And when I feel like I'm failing as a mom, I get a little bit panicked.
Mhm.
And when I don't know how to fix it or solve it, I then sort of panic. And when I feel like I'm being judged in my parenting, then I get defensive and I lose sight of what's really happening.
Mm.
And instead of being able to have clear vision of seeing her for what she is and responding to her emotion or pain, which as a therapist I'm good at in other
Yeah.
situations,
Yeah.
in that situation, my vision gets clouded and
Mhm.
I am not able to see clearly
Yeah.
in that.
Which
Where
is
you had said would respond totally different in that moment. I do engage.
Mhm.
but just the way I engage is different where you retreat.
Yep.
And I think
Mhm.
that's the part that you and I had talked about in your conflict avoidance, where
Mhm.
I'm not conflict avoidant.
Right.
I just am not productive. Like,
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I think it's a different type of avoidance in a way. Like, it's
sure,
not
exactly.
leaning into the pain in the same exact way, whereas mine is like you're saying, could be retreating and like, I'm not even gonna get into that. And you're not uncomfortable, so to speak, with anger as much as I would be, right? Where I can get definitely, like, "Ooh, we hit a point, like, I'm not gonna keep this going." Like, I'll just completely stop and remove myself from a situation. You have more comfort in that dialogue, in that, like, let's test this out and let's feel it. But maybe that is a different style of engaging that also can keep us from looking at certain parts of what's painful in that moment that's also happening at the same time.
It's a total deflection. It was
Hmm.
still avoidance, but it's an active avoidance versus a passive avoidance.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So, part of what we want to talk about from here is why we avoid pain. And I know we're talking about different styles of avoiding pain, right? I think it's just sort of human nature. Um, there has been research done on this. And, I think one of the big reasons that humans have this experience is because research has shown that emotional pain activates the thalamus to amygdala pathway. And so what that looks like is you end up triggering fear and avoidance when you're experiencing emotional pain, which I thought was really interesting. It does sort of speak to the biology of, or the neurobiology of why, that type of pain, especially emotional pain, gets in the way of leaning in. Because if that directly relates to us having fear and then avoiding, right? I mean, we want to kind of fight, flight, freeze. Like, I'm running away from that, right? That might be me, and you might be a fighter.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we're not necessarily moving forward on the path of growth. But for you, do you have any thoughts about um, why we might be wired to avoid pain? And even if we do know it's helpful for us to grow, what are your thoughts about why we continue that path?
I think it's protection, right? Like, I feel like it's survival. Like,
Yeah.
I think that we aren't wired to wanna we're taught, "Don't touch the hot stove."
Mhm.
Don't any stimulus that causes pain, we're sort of taught to avoid. So when your amygdala is saying, "It's hot, it's hot, it's hot," your brain's also telling you to avoid, avoid, avoid.
Mhm.
So you have to teach yourself how to move through.
Mhm. Yeah, because for survival, instinctually, we're going into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn place and
Yes.
not necessarily able to regulate to the point. And when we can, then we can recognize, oh, I'm actually not getting eaten by a bear.
Right.
I can, right? I can actually, which is what happens in our brains, is we interpret these things as fear, as life or death fear sometimes,
Absolutely.
especially based on our past and our traumas and all of that. And so when we're not regulated, we don't actually feel like we can do that. But when we have the capacity to recognize that's not actually what's happening to me, I'm safe, I'm okay, I can approach that very differently.
Right.
Uh,
And sometimes it takes a beat,
Yeah,
and sometimes it takes years.
right. Well, and it reminds me of what you were saying about Gabor Mate and sort of his approach with trauma and, this understanding that um, exactly what you explained when we have this pathway that's telling us this is, um, this is dangerous, this is a problem, like it leads to this great disconnection either within us or with other people sometimes or other experiences. And I think that can be a piece of what leads us to continue the cycle of not healing
Yes,
a lot of the time.
agreed.
Cool.
What's a small way you've leaned into discomfort lately?
I would say that I've been working pretty hard on um, identifying my own feelings and experiences and trying to name that and say that out loud.
Hmm.
I think one of my challenges is thinking, not only identifying kind of my own, like why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. I definitely have much more of an instinctual response to things, but I don't always slow down enough to process why this is happening, right? What is it that's bothering me? What's going on? Like, I just will sort of have an experience in my body and be like, oh, I'm overwhelmed and stressed today, but not slow down enough to recognize why. And so I have been actively working on getting in touch with myself, in touch with my body, slowing down,
Mm.
understanding where certain things are coming from. And then if I feel like there's something I can be doing or saying to navigate that or have that get better, whether that's at home, whether it's in my relationships, I'm working on trying to say that. And that's oddly new to me because I often find myself in the role of perceiving what other people need and trying to sort of stay within those bounds and keeping things very calm. So it doesn't feel like taking my own needs forward and talking about them is going to do that sometimes. It feels like it does rock the boat. And while cognitively I know it's worth it, it definitely takes practice for me to continue to go back and remind myself that, yeah, you know what, this is a thing. It needs to be discussed. Or I'm going to say this thing now that maybe isn't, going to result in a peaceful conversation, but that's okay. And it's so worth it for me to say how I'm feeling about something or what's bothering me or to ask for what I need.
But it's becoming your superpower because people never see you coming
It's
when
true.
you smack them across the face.
I know. When I beat him up, they're very surprised.
That's
So it
right.
is. It is. And honestly, then that's the other thing is ultimately once you do it, it feels really good. I do love getting to
Mm,
that space of like, you know what? Fine. I'll say what I have to say.
that's right.
So, in terms of moving toward pain, I know we just talked about sort of like the benefits of that and how, conflict, other things can be difficult. But I think when we were talking, you had something that you were hoping to share about moving towards pain and something in your journey.
Yeah. And you have been alongside me for this journey.
Mm.
I don't know. So for some reason, the universe wants you to be with me for all the really hard things, as we've discovered.
I guess so.
Um, so in 2022, we lost my brother to suicide. Um, and it was devastating. He'd been struggling. He was a combat veteran, but it was awful. And my whole family, were pretty destroyed by it in our own ways. Um, I'm someone that always tries to find silver linings, even in darkness. Um, so it really, I lean into caretaking, and which often allows me to avoid my pain, I think.
Mhm.
I think it caused me to try to live with intention, but I think in the beginning of that journey, I I went to therapy, but I still think I was numbing a lot, and it was just kind of the surface pain that I was trying to get through the day to day and kind of make sense of it. I think when you first experience a loss like that, you're just trying to understand. It's so confusing.
Mhm.
So over the past almost 3 years, it was in December of 2022. So we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary. Um, I realized over this past year um, that, the way that I was grieving and kind of avoiding my pain was no longer serving me.
Mhm.
And I actually wasn't living with intention as I had thought that I was trying to, and that maybe focusing my intentions on others and caretaking and leaning into a job that I wasn't really enjoying
Mhm.
um, wasn't working for me, and that I really needed to face the pain in a different way.
Mhm.
Um, in my life, I've had pretty significant painful, traumatic things happen, and I've kind of grieved like it was my job. A friend had once said to me, but I think that in this case, this type of loss was so different
Mhm.
and confusing that I think I just lost my way a bit in
Yeah.
it. And over not this summer, but the summer before, so this past year has really been an intentional journey of rediscovery.
Mhm.
Uh, and, you know, finding myself again and really leaning towards it, going to therapy again, leaving a job of almost 20 years that I think I've shared that I I didn't think I'd ever leave,
Right.
but
Right.
that I decided I needed to bet on myself and start this podcast and our consulting business together and private practice, which I had always in the beginning of my career or my in grad school, I thought that I would always do private practice, and then I sort of abandoned it and didn't believe that I would be able to be successful in it maybe or would enjoy it, and I'm loving it.
Mm.
So it's really been a testament to for me to learning that leaning into pain, it's scary and it was hard, and some of the conversations that I had and
Mhm.
some of the therapy sessions have been really hard, but I am happier than I've been in a long time because of, I guess, the courage that I've had to lean in with intention and um, take some steps to choose happiness.
Mhm. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. Like, even just knowing, obviously, kind of walking alongside you on your journey and getting to see that. I think the way you describe it today, it's been such a journey, but I also feel like so much of it, you needed to kind of go through these phases to get to where you are today. And I feel like you capture that beautifully in what you're saying, that, despite having had losses, significant losses prior, this was different.
It was
And
different. Mhm.
I think while there's no playbook for really anything, I think a lot of people do try to kind of capture grief and say, like, here's what you go through, and there's no real timeline, but you go through these things. And this was so different. Like, even, every coping skill you might have had before and what you leaned into, you had to kind of recognize that there's more leaning in to do to get to the bottom of sort of the pain that you were experiencing.
And what I discovered too, and it's like as a therapist, you know these things,
Mhm.
but as a human, uh, that is, has all of our warts on us
Mhm.
too, that you sort of don't realize it as the person that you are. Um, that in times of crisis and pain, and when you experience a trauma like we did, all of the stress factors that exist within you or within your family system kind of become exposed.
Mhm.
And so that was something that we experienced too,
Mhm.
that any stress fracture that existed that we were coexisting in and maybe ignoring, you
Mhm.
couldn't ignore anymore because we
Right.
were all like nobody was able to be their best self because we
Mhm.
were all just completely distraught
Mhm.
from this very devastating loss that we couldn't make sense of.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that in those moments when we do, right, when we know that everything is sort of showing up and, all the things that we can no longer sort of just exist with are, it's like you can't undo that. That process is done and then it's seen and we know it's there. And yet, just like we've been talking about with this, like there's so many ways that people have, band-aid that or have unhealthy coping skills and don't address it or see it, but then sort of cover it up again eventually and do whatever they might normally do. And I know for you, just like you described, there was this sort of clear, just like you're saying, living with intention, like movement towards dealing with this loss and anything else that was starting to become exposed as a result,
Mhm.
which I think you've really been living into, which has been, you know, a really amazing thing to see. But, it's also just clear how humbling like all the work is that we're constantly doing.
It's like a reckoning, and honestly, it's like the phoenix, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in a lot of ways I was brought down to my ashes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm slowly trying to rise back up,
Yep.
but, it the journey is certainly hard and arduous, but it's very worth it,
Mhm.
and facing the pain has been challenging, and some days are certainly harder than others, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And that's the silver lining, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like the growth and the experiences that I've had for that have made me better for it. I think I'm a better mom. I've said this before. I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. I'm a better daughter. I'm certainly a better therapist, having gone through what I've gone through. I think I'm a better leadership consultant.
Yeah, that humanness really does bring us perspective. And, when we've gone through something and we grow through it and rise like the phoenix, like we're saying, it absolutely shows, and I think brings such validity to any work you do after that or any role that you have, which has been cool to see. So appreciate you sharing that.
I appreciate you being my constant support through all of these really challenging moments in my life.
I'm always here.
You really are. And I'm really grateful. Don't know that I'd survive some of these things without you, course.
Oh, I know you would, but if I could be here to help in any way, I love to be. So cool. Well, you made a great case for why we should lean in. I think that's truly, right? That's what this is about here, is for us to talk about sort of the why behind this. And I think we've been outlining that as we've gone through this. But, there's another quote here that I found interesting, which was about pain can either be a prison or a bridge to strength. And I think that is so highlighted in what you talked about, where, when we go through something as emotionally painful as you and your family have gone through these last several years, and recognize like how boxed in we can feel from that pain, and, how hard that is to navigate, but yet there's also this transformation that can happen when we're able to access it.
And I think it was starting to feel like a prison, and it doesn't anymore. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Good work.
Thank you. Thank you. I love this quote: "Pain speaks in the language of change. Those who listen grow."
Ooh.
When you're thinking about that, what helps you sit in discomfort instead of running from it? And what's one way you're doing that now?
Oof.
Deep.
I feel so bad at this. I don't like sitting in discomfort, which I feel like a lot of people feel that way. So for me, which I do love that quote, by the way, I think, I think it speaks to that motivator that pain can be, even when it's really hard and we don't really maybe want to always listen, like it's saying, but then when you do, like that's how we actually transform. And I think some of what you talked about before, this last several years for you, but also this last year for us, I think in a lot of ways has been a very transformative year, and has involved a lot of navigating, really both sitting with discomfort and figuring out how to navigate through it and work with the experiences I think we were having. So for me individually, I struggle to stay very present in that. I think a lot of times I'm just like putting things to the back of my mind and like trudging forward. And that's how I get through my day to day. But then it catches up with me over time. So what helps me stay in it really and to be able to process it. I remember during the pandemic, I was reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And one of the great lessons in there, one of my favorite, was the stories she shares about when she tried to do hot yoga. And I don't remember, it was in that book, right? I know she talks about it on her podcast too, but one of them, she tries to do hot yoga and realizes it is like so overwhelming, and you think, oh, I'm just gonna like do these little movements, it's gonna be great, but it can be really like overwhelming to your system to just be dealing with the heat and then also trying to move and like all this stuff. And those of us who and I'm another person as well who I think struggles to like be embodied, like in my body sometimes, because I've dealt with a lot of physical pain things as growing up. And so I was listening to her talk about that and how overwhelming the experience was. But then her goal when she continued, like she didn't quit, she kept going. And her goal every single time was just to sit there and not jump off her mat, literally, not run off the mat. Like, don't get up and run away. And quite literally practice just sitting there while everyone else is doing yoga moves and poses and stuff. And I at first was laughing, was like, this is funny. But I've had to hold that phrase, like, "Don't jump off your mat or don't run off your mat," so many times, and I remember actually saying that to myself when I've had to lean into, like, difficult conversations or, um, you know, just process through my own experiences that can be really hard even in my own therapy and things because my inclination is to just kind of skirt around it. Like, I start and then I can, like, kind of deviate away because it becomes too uncomfortable for me. So, that I guess is what I would say is I have to really be so present and hold in mind sort of a mantra or a phrase that keeps me engaged because I know it is worth it. But in the moment, my brain's doing everything to pull me away from the present moment and like distract myself or go towards something that seems a little easier.
That's such a great strategy.
It's tough, but it is. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a simple strategy, but it's such a good one that can keep you grounded, and to know that it's also effective for somebody else also, like,
Mhm.
it works.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Yeah. It does, and it does, it seems simple, but it does ground me and it will help me, like, kinda gear up towards something difficult
mhm,
and feel like I'm, like, sturdy and grounded going
mhm.
in, and not that every uncomfortable situation you can prepare for like that, but I also utilize that when I feel myself, like, doing this thing, and I just envision her running out, jumping out and being like, "Get me out of here," and I do, I hold that vision and think like, "Alright, that's such a normal human experience to just want to flee this, but, like, chill out for a second. Like, you can stay in it, you can hang in there, and then you continue to move towards what's difficult to move through."
Sometimes it's music for with me. I
Mm.
listen to sometimes a song, and if I wanna stay, like, in my power, I'll listen to a really hard rock
Yes.
anthem.
Yes.
So I don't move away from that discomfort and want to just bail,
Yeah.
but it helps me stay in it.
It's so true.
When you think about it from the perspective of resilience, how would you define resilience? Is it something that you're innately born with, or is it something that you uncover and build over time?
Um, I would say ooh, I do think every person does have some level of inherent resilience in them,
Mhm.
right? I think that just surviving life, even I think from birth can be like
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
be resilient to make it through, right? I think every one of us probably faced some kind of experience,
Mm.
even as a young child, or just, I don't know, just living in this world that helps us find strength. So I think there is a level of resilience that is within everyone. And I think it has to be practiced to be available to us. So I would say there's so much that needs to be done in order to help build our own resilience up, or uncover it, I guess. So, yeah, I feel like resilience is something that helps us feel like we can navigate these difficult experiences, that we can lean into hard stuff. Um, and practice and repetition
Mhm.
helps us get better at it. So we learn to have the confidence that we can actually stay strong.
I love that.
Yeah.
True. I agree.
Awesome. All right. So, moving towards kind of the end here, I wanted to ask you what's one thing that you'd say to someone who's afraid to lean into their pain?
I would say you're not alone. I would say that it is super normal to be afraid to move towards pain, and that I would be suspicious if you weren't.
So true.
Um, and that try to use that fear to propel you forward.
Mhm.
I think sometimes fear can be can cause you to freeze. Um, but if there's a way that you can find a community, as we've talked about in the past, um, and know that on the other side, you will be free of the pain, and that we really aren't meant to stay in intolerable feelings forever. Um, but your fear is normal, and
Mhm.
that it makes sense. Um, but moving through is worth the journey.
Well put. I love that.
So, thank you for going on this journey with me.
Always. Thanks for sharing today. This has been awesome. All
Thanks
right.
to our listeners.
Yes. Should we do our closer?
Let's do it. Free association.
Oh,
What do we
gosh.
got?
I'm nervous every day.
I'm getting a 5th puppy.
My gosh. That's a big one.
It's really not the best decision in terms of like, financial decisions and all of those things, but it will enhance our lives in every other way.
It's not a money cup. It's a heart cup.
It's a heart cup. It is our heart cup. And we're fighting right now over her name.
Okay.
So
Can you share?
send in your feedback on what we should name
Ooh.
but just so you know that we have Reese Chewy Barca Curly Cup, we have Tika Sophia, we have Stitch Yoda Flower, and we have Harley Queso Tinsel. So it has to match that.
So 3-part name. More
3 to
than
4.
3 to 4 parts. Okay. Is there anything you can tell us about her that might help anybody listening come up
She's
with?
a little brown baby dachshund, probably long-haired.
Oh my gosh.
I think long-haired. Hopefully curly as well.
Oh, all right.
And one of her middle names, according to my husband, has to be Snitzel.
Snitzel. So we need to work around Snitzel.
You have to work around Snitzel. Yes.
Snitzel. Oh, all right.
But that's a middle name. We're not allowing him to make that the first name. Girl puppy.
Right. Okay. Fair.
Only girl dachshunds in our house, according to my husband.
Okay. It would probably be weird at this point to throw a boy into the mix.
It really would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your turn.
What have I been doing lately?
What's Griff going to be for Halloween?
Oh, that's a great question. He is going to be Jack Sparrow.
Ooh.
We already have everything set except one additional piece that's coming today. He has his whole pirate outfit, the wig, all of it. But I ordered him some facial hair. I feel like you have to have that.
You obviously do.
Be Jack Sparrow. You need that beard with the little braids. So he has that. I'm going to glue it on his face. I'm going to do eye makeup on him.
Yes.
I think it's pretty great.
You guys go all out for your costumes.
I love Halloween. I just think it's so fun, and I never want to stop loving Halloween.
I can't wait to see your costume.
I have no idea what my costume will be. It's not as special as Griff's, but we prioritize his, and then I always figure something out by the end. So, But yeah.
Amazing.
Love it.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your October.
Yes, have a great week.